Good morning. Welcome to day 3 here at IPC Apex Expo. It's the third and last day of the show, and it's actually been quite a successful week. The show floor, of course, has been a little bit quieter, but the quality of visitors here has been extremely high, and there's certainly been quite a bit of business conducted on the floor. I have a full panel of guests this morning, and the first of my guests joining me now is Alison James. Welcome, Alison. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you, Trevor.
Okay. So you are the EU head of government relations for IPC.
That's right.
And that's an area where there's a lot going on. And I think it's also very interesting to see that IPC is getting ahead of the game because typically a lot of the legislation comes in, starts at the European level and ends up trickling down into the US. So the fact that you're getting a seat at the table is absolutely superb.
That is absolutely the case, Trevor. Europe has always been a driver, especially on environmental legislation, and they talk about the Brussels effect. So whatever happens in Europe, they set the standard. It goes not only to the US, goes to Asia. And yes, and companies tend to set their markers at the European level. So yes, it's very, very much a driver and very, very active on legislation.
So let's talk about some of the key areas of legislation that are out there at the moment. I mean, I think the obvious ones are there are a number of threats that have come up in the industry, both geopolitical threats, which started with from the US-China trade war, but more recently through the pandemic and the threats to the supply chain. What sort of legislative agendas are coming down the pike to try and help to correct some of this?
Okay, so again, a lot, I think. Europe, like every other region, in light of all of the geopolitical developments that you've talked about, is looking to examine its vulnerabilities and also its strengths and looking to address those. So they are looking to build up strategic industries and seeing where the vulnerabilities are. As part of that, we have something that is quite parallel to the US. They've recognized the importance of semiconductor chips. So we do have a CHIPS Act, which is pending in Q1 of the year. And we, of course, are making it a point to the European institutions that chips are very, very important. We very much support that. But it's not just chips. We need to make sure that we have a resilient ecosystem, that the whole electronics manufacturing ecosystem, that we look across the chain. There are more strategic dependencies and more vulnerabilities in electronics manufacturing than semiconductor chips. So that's something that we're working on. And we also make sure that it's a point not to manufacture everything in one region, but that you also look to strategic trading partners. So there are trade issues which come in there also.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very important point, that, both in the US and in Europe. The emphasis so far has been so much on building these chip fabs, which is great, but you need the PCB manufacturers, you need the OSATs, and you need, of course, the contract manufacturers to complete the whole supply chain.
You very much need a supporting industry around the manufacturing of high-end chips. Absolutely.
Now, I also understand that you've recently joined a European-US trade council. I'm not sure what the exact name is, Alison, but tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so that's the EU-US Trade and Technology Council. So that's part of the what I was referencing a few moments ago, that it's not possible for any region. It's not desirable, and no region is looking to manufacture everything on their own. That's just not part of global trade, right? So that means seeking strategic partners, and the US is a strategic partner for the European Union. So in trade and technology issues, last September, the US government and the European Union launched a Trade and Technology Council. That means closer cooperation on trade and technology issues and economic issues going forward. So as part of that, we've joined the Trade and Technology Council expert group, the working group on secure supply chains. So again, we're making the same message, that you have to look at vulnerabilities for your industries, and electronics manufacturing is a very strategically important industry. So let's make sure that we're mapping vulnerabilities and also addressing those, building up capabilities on both sides of the Atlantic and seeing where we can cooperate. So that's a dialogue that's going on throughout this year. They've already had their first meeting, but there's more to come.
That's interesting.
The next meeting in Europe in the spring.
And so, I hate to ask the question, but where does the UK sit in that, or doesn't it?
The UK, I'm afraid, doesn't sit in doesn't sit in there.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, what other areas are you working on with the
So again, with the
EU.
focus, and I think that was the question that you asked at the beginning, what has changed in light of geopolitical tensions and in light of the pandemic? So Europe generally, almost everything that Europe is working on is shaped by two big developments, and it's the Green Deal and digitization.
Right.
So sustainability is a huge focus in Europe across all aspects. So we see that coming down the track in the chips focus, right? Because that's also making sure that Europe has what it needs to meet what they call the green and the digital transition.
Right.
So that's why they're looking at energy efficient chips. So that they're not looking to build up industries that are not sustainable and are not contributing to the climate objectives that Europe has met.
Right.
But we have a host of legislation which is coming down the track under that banner. And again, looking at transparency of supply chains, looking at sustainability of supply chains. So in a couple of weeks, possibly, we should have a proposal coming out on due diligence, sustainable corporate governance. So that's really looking to build in sustainable supply chains. It's looking to really impose far-reaching obligations on companies to make sure that they're checking their supply chains for potential human rights abuses, for environmental damages, which can be very broad. And with that, there will be reporting obligations for companies. So this will impact all companies. Whether you have to report or not, you'll still be in a supply chain of the companies that are reporting.
Right.
So that's a major piece of legislation. We've been working with the Commission since last year as it comes out, always looking to make sure that legislation is workable for companies, that it meets its objective, but is actually workable for the companies who
I
the
think
obligations are imposed.
sustainability is obviously very high on the agenda in Europe, but
Yes, it is.
it covers such a number of different aspects, and ranging from the length of the carbon footprint that you're making to deliver goods. I mean, it makes no sense to be shipping goods halfway across the world to reach consumers. They should be made closer to the consumer to reduce the risk as well as to make it more environmentally friendly. So there's a whole range of different things, energy conservation. There's all sorts of things come into that.
There's certainly going to be a focus, and that's also this year, Trevor, going forward, that to make sure that all products that are being released on the European market, that we're going towards sustainable products. So that's a move to the circular economy. So carbon footprint is very much a part of that. Much more focus on reporting obligations, on measuring carbon footprint, on less hazardous chemicals, more energy efficiency. That brings in a raft of legislation. So I mean, I hear what you're saying about the length of supply chains, and that's coming in legislation in different ways.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just wondering how they're going to implement it, because the thing about the European Union is that they've always been very forward at bringing in new environmental legislation, but they've been very weak at implementing it or enforcing it, should I say. Generally speaking, what they do in Europe is they leave it up to each member country to devise their own method of implementing the legislation.
Enforcement.
And that doesn't really work, quite frankly. But I'm just wondering how they're going to put some teeth behind this legislation on sustainability.
Well, and again, there were so many different pieces of that, but they've definitely had a lot of dialogue with the member states. And if we look at the sustainable corporate governance and due diligence legislation, they are looking to see how can you increase the enforcement mechanisms and how can you have greater cooperation between member states. But yes, I mean, that's been recognized that there is an issue, one of many issues, of how to make sure this is workable. At the end of the day.
It's great to see it, honestly, Alison, that IPC's at the centre of this, as I said at the beginning. It's very, very important that we have somebody who knows the industry and can represent the industry at the table. We certainly want to keep up to date with what you're doing in future, and I want to thank you for coming in and giving us just a brief discussion of some of the activities you're up to in Brussels.
It's my pleasure, Trevor. Anytime. Happy to come back.
Okay,
Thank you for having me.
Great. So coming up after the break, we're going to be starting the first of our show wrap-ups with Mr. Mike Skinner from US Tech.
At Kaizen, we know it's the science that makes the difference. The right solutions happen when you care enough to ask the right questions. And we understand that your performance is directly related to ours. Science knows why it works, care knows why it's important.
Electronics are part of our world, expanding by application to open up new opportunities for automotive, healthcare, and many other industries. But today's manufacturing techniques are not sustainable. They are energy hungry and inefficient, expensive, and have limited flexibility. The world is asking us to do better. Introducing Pulse Forge tools, a new approach to thermal processes like soldering and curing. Design with more flexibility, manufacture with fewer process steps, reduce energy use, and decarbonize the supply chain. Expand your creativity to new levels. Designers are asking for more. They need to reduce form factors, reduce weight to work on wearables and stretchables, opening new market opportunities for consumers across the world, asking us to do better. If you think sustainability and freedom of design are not possible in electronics manufacturing, think again. Think Pulse Forge.
For micro dispensing, there is one product line that is proven and trusted by manufacturers in semiconductor packaging, electronics assembly, medical device, and electromechanical assembly the world over. DL Technology, superior pumps and needles for the finer things in life. Norton Electronic Solutions. Everything you need for precision automated fluid dispensing, conformal coating, plasma surface treatment, and selective soldering. Our passion is helping customers take their processes further, faster, with best-in-class technologies, dedicated global sales and support teams, and unmatched applications expertise. From the names you respect, Asamtech Fluid Dispensing and Conformal Coating, March Plasma Treatment, and Select for selective soldering, we offer years of experience in advanced technology solutions for electronics manufacturing. Take your electronics assembly process further, faster.
Ko-Young is leading a smart revolution that will change the world of electronics manufacturing. Based on our pioneering True 3D measurement-based inspection technology, we revolutionize the solder paste inspection market to such great lengths that 1 in 2 SPIs sold today is from Ko-Young. Building our SPI technology, we expanded to automated optical inspection, also known as AOI. Every year, we introduce new award-winning innovations and have proudly earned the respect from thousands of customers across diverse industries. Aside from our R&D center in Korea, we have research facilities focused on artificial intelligence and deep learning across the world to help us further develop proprietary AI technologies for your challenges. With our global network of sales and service centers, we aim to respond quickly to your needs and to deliver the highest level of customer satisfaction.
At Kaizen, we know it's the science that makes the difference. The right solutions happen when you care enough to ask the right questions. And we understand that your performance is directly related to ours. Science knows why it works, care knows why it's important.
Electronics are part of our world, expanding by application to open up new opportunities for automotive, healthcare, and many other industries. But today's manufacturing techniques are not sustainable. They are energy hungry and inefficient, expensive, and have limited flexibility. The world is asking us to do better. Introducing Pulse Forge tools, a new approach to thermal processes like soldering and curing. Design with more flexibility, manufacture with fewer process steps, reduce energy use, and decarbonize the supply chain. Expand your creativity to new levels. Designers are asking for more. They need to reduce form factors, reduce weight to work on wearables and stretchables, opening new market opportunities for consumers across the world, asking us to do better. If you think sustainability and freedom of design are not possible in electronics manufacturing, think again. Think Pulse Forge.
And welcome back. Delighted to be joined by Mike Skinner from US Tech. Good to see you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so impressions of the show. I think it's fair to say everybody started out with fairly low expectations for the show this week.
Which are easy to exceed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, most people reported good, though. Yeah, expectations were low. Attendance, we know, is negligible. But all the companies are here, and they're all doing well.
Yeah.
So nobody's starving. I don't think that the attendance is an indication of the industry doing poorly in this case.
And I think actually the people that did come here had a reason to be here. And so there's been a lot of quality discussions and even, I know, certainly some equipment sold during the course of the week. So I think it has fulfilled its requirements really in many ways.
I agree. I think so too. And everybody's so excited to come back.
Yeah.
So we all wanted to be here in person regardless. And like you said, the customers that are going to come and go through this stuff to get in want to be here.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Equipment, new things on the show, shiny objects. What did you see?
More than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was interesting because I was talking to a couple of people, and they were saying even over the pandemic, the research and development and design and in-house production never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these companies did really well. Right. So they had a lot of time. And then also some of them by reducing shifts early on and cutting travel and cutting marketing budgets, they had extra money too. Right. So some of them poured it into some ideas that maybe they wouldn't do otherwise. Yeah. But one of the big things here, it looks like, is the next step of 3D printing. 3D printing electronics and genuine 3D printing electronics, not building a plastic formed something and then depositing on top.
Right.
It's like printing
3D
from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's really coming into its own. Well, you're seeing that with, all the activity around nano dimension, and then of course the breakaway, the new company Pulse Forge, which has come out.
It's very cool.
Yeah, which is a breakaway from Novacentric. So again, all in the 3D area, and been able to print on curved surfaces and all sorts of different things.
Yeah, and I think the nano dimension is interesting because with the acquisition of SM Tech, now they have a machine with a sturdy frame that they could put a printing head in. They already have dispensing and pick and place. And they can have at least 3, I think, in one of them. Right. So it's just an easy, that makes sense, a home run right away.
Yeah. I'm still trying to really work out the end game there because they bought a couple of other interesting companies. They bought an AI company. They also bought, 2 weeks ago, they bought, is it G-Inks? It's a conductive ink company.
It makes sense, though. If you cast your net wide enough.
Yeah, it's all strategic. So I'm still
strategic, I think, within a very broad category. Yeah. I mean, if your target is big, you'll always hit it. Right. But they have they raise so much money. Right. They can buy anyone they want. Yeah. And I think also, maybe, I might be wrong, but it seems like they're kind of buying up these guys because they want a genius to pop out of the woodwork also and solve some of the problem for them. Right. That's what it seems as well. Yeah. But they're doing well.
They're doing well, and they've hired some very smart people as well. Let's watch that space.
Yeah.
All right. Other people on the show floor. In Situware, they had, of course, came out with the Mark I solder paste inspection system, which has now got a conformal coating module. But they've added a couple of things. They've added a thickness tester as a separate unit, and they've also added a paste mixer.
I saw the mixer,
which I always thought was necessary because to get consistency of the sample, you need it to be mixed at the same rate. Otherwise, you're going to have one engineer who's going to be mixing it like this, and
And
another
apparently you
engineer
can
who's going
overmix
like that.
also.
Yeah.
At some point you can do too much.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
that I thought was interesting too, because the jars, they integrated the sensor and stuff into the cap of the jar. So you plug in the jar on the top and
liked that.
spin it. It's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool.
I liked that idea. So let's see, who else did we see that's got some good things?
I have one other guy I thought was interesting, the SurfX Technologies, which is kind of interesting because I don't know a whole lot of players in like atmospheric plasma. There's a few, like Plasma Etch. There's a few. But that was interesting because it's atmospheric plasma, but all that comes out of the emitter is infrared radiation. Oh. So it was interesting. It was tabletop. It was real small, and it was notable because it seemed too easy.
Right.
So
okay,
that's
I didn't see that, so I need to go over and take a look before the end of the show. Yeah. Cogiscan, they come out with a new system called TTC Fix, which was pretty cool.
I'm unfamiliar, but what does it do? The TTC Fix.
Well, exactly. The TTC Fix. Let me see. I'm still trying to read.
That's okay. Yeah.
It's
because now we have many. We have Arch here. Then we have all those MES guys. We have Cogiscan. There was who did ASM just buy recently? That was in the MES space. Critical
manufacturing. Yeah, and they've come out also with.
And now they're slowly sort of differentiating themselves a little bit. But Cogiscan, the TTC Fix.
TTC Fix is basically a system for being able to, as the name implies, track, trace, and control, and then pick it into the rework and repair part of the factory with instructions on
the
how,
fix part.
on what parts to fix.
Oh, cool.
So it's kind of a nice piece of software. Talking about ASM, and they had quite a few new things on there as well. They've made quite a few changes to the deck printing platform, so it can run up to 8 hours throughout the day without operator interference. They've got a new through-hole machine that actually can do odd-form components, can do through-hole components, and can clinch them underneath as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because I remember, a few years ago, we weren't here last year, but the year before, there were a couple of companies that were showing some kind of through-hole component, and one of them, it just seems like it's picking up. Like, people are able to handle the bigger, odd things. And weird feeders, things that are just the difficult part of that problem.
Yeah. Well, not everybody needs to have surface mount. Nobody, or that amount of miniaturization. Some people have got the luxury of being able to use through hole still. So there is still a market for it, that's for sure. Who else was out there? Let's have a look. We had ECD with some new oven sentinel technology. And I think that's pretty much it so far. Yes, on the critical manufacturing side, they brought out a software for managing the factory, and it's very much like a CRM system, where you in a CRM system you would design a customer journey, except in this case it's an AGV journey around the factory, and then once you've decided where it's going, then you can work out certain workflows. So it can pick up components, take it to this point, and if the machine's not ready, then it does this action, etc., etc.
And it's interesting that you say that too, because even some of the smaller companies, like there's a company that makes only cleaning equipment, PPT Works here. The guy's Czech.
Yep.
His machine can be loaded and unloaded by AGV.
Yep.
And they just make a cleaner. And many of these other guys, I remember Omron, they're working on that stuff. Last time, I think we had Fuji at a demo of the AGV.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in practice, but it seems like it would work well.
It's actually more prevalent in Europe. In Europe, you see a lot of it now. And they're not actually even AGVs now; they're AIVs, which means they're artificial intelligence. So there you go. Okay, so
they do more than just vacuum.
Yes, absolutely. Bring you a cup of coffee as well. So that's about it for wrap up on the show floor. So I want to say, what's happening with you and US Tech? Anything new?
We kicked off the year good. We're back. Our January, February issue is the biggest one we've had in 4 years.
Right.
Easily. And that's pre-pandemic. So we've done very well.
Good.
And at the end of the day, news, if the industry does well, we do well. And if it does poorly, I still can write about it.
Right. Okay.
So,
well, it's
thank you very much, Trevor, really.
Great to have your view on things, Mike. And I want to thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Good. So, finishing up after the break, we are going to be joining our roving reporter and great guest and friend, Keith Bryant.
At Kaizen, we know it's the science that makes the difference. The right solutions happen when you care enough to ask the right questions. And we understand that your performance is directly related to ours. Science knows why it works, care knows why it's important.
Electronics are part of our world, expanding by application to open up new opportunities for automotive, healthcare, and many other industries. But today's manufacturing techniques are not sustainable. They are energy hungry and inefficient, expensive, and have limited flexibility. The world is asking us to do better. Introducing Pulse Forge tools, a new approach to thermal processes like soldering and curing. Design with more flexibility, manufacture with fewer process steps, reduce energy use, and decarbonize the supply chain. Expand your creativity to new levels. Designers are asking for more. They need to reduce form factors, reduce weight to work on wearables and stretchables, opening new market opportunities for consumers across the world, asking us to do better. If you think sustainability and freedom of design are not possible in electronics manufacturing, think again. Think Pulse Forge.
And into the final segment of the show. And I'm joined by Keith Bryant, our old friend and roving reporter. And what can I say?
Probably best say nothing, Trevor. if you're never sure what to say, best say nothing.
There you go. So anyway, I've got to thank you for the amazing input you've had this week. You've had a lot of guests on your show and talking to other people from the exhibition. What's been your big takeaways?
Well, professionalism of your team, first of all. Thank you, team.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Well done.
From people that I've been talking to sitting here, solder paste companies, 3 companies with new low temperature solder products, which gets rid of the bismuth problem. You know, when we went low temperature, yeah, it had a lot of advantages, but all the joints were brittle because of the bismuth. And 3 people have got different approaches to overcoming the problem. 2 of them have just got products out. The other one's products out in another 2-3 weeks. And that's really, really going to help the industry because everybody wants to go low temperature because of the environment, because of the lack of stress it puts onto the components and everything else. And this is a really big step forward.
So what alloys are they using if they're not using bismuth?
That's the proprietary stuff that they didn't really want to talk about too much.
Pixie dust.
Yeah. It's the magic stuff. I mean, there's still going to be an amount of bismuth in there. There's going to be some indium, but I think there's 1 or 2, and it's really a lot of the doping stuff that they're using, and a lot of maybe the smaller additives that they're putting into it has overcome the brittle fracture issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And 2 of them have also gone in the other direction, and they've got specialty products for high temperature. Let's say not high temperature applications, but the standard applications in power electronics and IGBTs and this kind of thing, where voiding is always an issue because the voids take away the heat transfer, and that causes things to overheat and break. And they've got now new formulations that get rid of the voiding, including one of them that's actually using formic acid in its let's say in its flux chemistry, and they're talking about like, repeated trials with almost no voiding in all the stuff that they're doing. So yeah, really big step forward.
Wow, interesting. That's great. So any other sort of big ones that you?
No, the other two were, well, I would say by comparison, two small ones.
Right.
You've got the guys who make the Matrix automated tooling have brought out a printer, which is, to use their words, a hybrid between a manual and a semi-automatic, but effectively it's a low-cost printer aimed at the American market. And they launched it here. They're getting good responses from what they're seeing already.
Yeah, I think I saw it. It's got vision built into it as well,
Yes.
hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a neat little thing, but they've really tried to keep it, down as a, I won't say low cost, but at least as aggressively priced as they can do it to get it into the market.
Right.
And ASE have got a new AOI system, which is a combination SPI, AOI, and again aimed at what we used to call in the old days the mum and pop shops.
Right.
And that market has grown tremendously in the US over the last year and a half. With now they're doing not only small runs, but they're doing new product introduction for some of the bigger companies, and a whole lot of people are looking to try and keep, if they can't keep the volume onshore. Right. They're at least doing the development and everything there. So yeah, those were probably the key highlights.
Yeah. And I think certainly I was out on the show floor quite a bit through the rest of the day, and the sentiment has been quite positive. I mean, I think the feeling around the show, there wasn't big expectations to begin with, but I think there's been, they're quite happy with the quality of the people that have come in through the doors.
Yeah, a couple of people used the great phrase, I came with low expectations and I've been happy.
There you go.
And, I'm, Mike Conrad, who's been sat here quite a bit, he did a professional development course upstairs. Yeah. And all the professional development courses were well attended.
I heard that. Yeah.
And the conference itself was also quite well attended. Mm-hmm. And, if you look here, if you were just to take a couple of pictures, you'd say, it's a bad show. There's hardly anybody walking around. Mm-hmm. We had it at Productronica. We had it to an extent at SMTAI. Yeah. And, part of me says maybe this is the new normal now. Well, if you want to learn, you'll come and do a professional development course. If you've got a reason to listen to somebody presenting some new technology, you'll come. And if you've got a reason to look at equipment, you'll come. But if you just, for the guys that used to just, come for a couple of days out because they came every year, those are the people that aren't coming. You talk to exhibitors on the floor and, there's nobody about, but we're only sort of 10, 15% down on our inquiry level for 2019. Right. And when you look at the two, it's really hard to put them together.
It's very true. And I think, the people that are not here, as we call it, the tire kickers, if you like. But it means that you're having more in-depth quality conversations with people that are really interested in your product. So, I mean, in one way, it's actually better to have a higher quality audience. But you mentioned the new norm. I think that's something we're going to discuss in the panel discussion this morning, actually, is how is it going to look post-pandemic? Are these trade shows going to return to the norm? I don't think they are.
No, I completely agree with you. And, when I was running booths myself, I always said to the people who were organizing it, I don't want 5,000 people walking past my booth. I want like 100 or 200 serious people who are going to come on and talk to me. Right. And if those 100 or 200 or maybe even a few less are still here, then effectively that does what we want. Right. Whether we need such prestigious venues, if we're doing that going forwards, then, that's another
the other element, because these venues like San Diego Convention Center, they're extremely expensive. And so if the number of people is going to reduce, then the value proposition is going to reduce, and they can't justify the same charges.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some big guys who are here with no equipment, and I'm sure now they're kicking themselves and wishing that they brought kit with them, because the guys who've got stuff for people, who can do show and tell and, maybe not full demos, but they can at least show people the capability of the stuff they've got. Mm-hmm. In a head-to-head, they're going to win out from anybody here who's just got, a small booth and chairs and tables. Right. And, but I guess it's, as we've all said, it's coming out of the pandemic. It's, coping with the new variants and people still suffering with travel bans and everything else. So, maybe it's a bit early to say, but yeah, a show like this with, maybe a minimum stand size that's a bit bigger would bring a bit more interest in for the visitors. But no, I mean, everybody that I've talked to is happy about how their business is going generally and happy with the number of people that they've talked to at the show. So, you have to put a tick in the box and say, yeah, it was a success.
I think so. And I think and our attempts at live broadcasting and bringing some of the action to the people that didn't manage to make it to the show has been quite successful this week as well.
Yeah, and we've got people like ASM who are doing almost like a hybrid thing with what they're doing, and maybe this is the way forward. I mean, their stand is still one of the biggest, but for them, they'd still say, yeah, we're here in quite a small way. Yeah, and I'm sure when you talked to Mark yesterday, he said exactly that.
Exactly.
But if it's the way that works and it brings in the business, then perhaps it's the best
That's
way.
what it's going to be.
Yeah. But what I have liked is the fact that the conference and the development courses have been busy, because that means there are not only people out there who want to learn, but there are companies who are investing the money in their people to upskill them. There's no other way of there's no other way of dressing it up. So the IPC and people like the SMTA who do a lot of development courses and this kind of thing, that is hopefully going to be a strong comeback after the pandemic. And if shows end up a little bit smaller and maybe a bit more technical and a bit less sort of razzmatazz, then I think it's
probably a good thing.
I won't say it's going to be definitely a good thing, but it's definitely a better way forward than shows like this saying we haven't made enough money, we're not going to do it next year.
Okay. So, talking about razzmatazz and sort of high quality events, where are you off to next?
Oh, Trevor. I'm going to lose all my credibility now. If I just say that it's the Pan-Pacific Conference, then that would work. And being Pan-Pacific, they try and bring in people from Asia, from Japan, from Taiwan, from Korea, also people from the US and people from Europe. So they just picked a convenient location. There wasn't any other logical reason for this, but they've held it for
just say it. It's been held in Hawaii.
30 years now, and it's held in different islands in Hawaii each year. So on Friday I'm on a plane off to Hawaii for a really tough conference next week.
Yeah, there you go. But actually, you touched on it. It's the great thing about that particular conference is it does merge the minds from Asia with the best from the US, and it's really quite a unique conference.
Yeah, we've got a keynote and a whole session on quantum computing.
Wow!
And
really,
we're pulling in people from effectively academia, who are going to hopefully explain to dumb engineers like myself really how quantum computing works, because 3 people have tried already, and I'm still not really sure.
Right.
But I'm sure with those guys there and the ability to sit and ask them questions afterwards, then I think that's going to help. But it's a strange headline to have for a conference.
Yeah.
But so many people are so interested in it and saying, this is going to be the future, and it's going to link to our industry. Yeah. So, let's find out a bit more about it.
Absolutely, it is. And now that you mention it, I'm quite jealous, because I would like to learn a bit more about it too. But
if I get a link for the papers, Trevor, I will sell it to you afterwards. Don't worry.
Great. All right. Well, safe travels for that, Keith, and thank you very much for all of the content that you've helped to bring together this week. And again, of course, thanks to the team who've done a great job this week. And thanks, of course, to our viewers for watching. So this is Trevor and Keith saying thank you for watching and goodbye from Apex 2022.
At Kaizen, we know it's the science that makes the difference. The right solutions happen when you care enough to ask the right questions. And we understand that your performance is directly related to ours. Science knows why it works, care knows why it's important.
Electronics are part of our world, expanding by application to open up new opportunities for automotive, healthcare, and many other industries. But today's manufacturing techniques are not sustainable. They are energy hungry and inefficient, expensive, and have limited flexibility. The world is asking us to do better. Introducing Pulse Forge tools, a new approach to thermal processes like soldering and curing. Design with more flexibility, manufacture with fewer process steps, reduce energy use, and decarbonize the supply chain. Expand your creativity to new levels. Designers are asking for more. They need to reduce form factors, reduce weight to work on wearables and stretchables, opening new market opportunities for consumers across the world, asking us to do better. If you think sustainability and freedom of design are not possible in electronics manufacturing, think again. Think Pulse Forge.